morning. Brian here. You are at the Art of Startup War. And we only do one thing here. We interview incredible entrepreneurs who we have invested in. We believe absolutely intrinsically from our soul that these folks are going to build unicorns. In this case, normally when I'm interviewing the folks that we've invested in, I do it with a sense of pride and also intrigue and wanting to know more about the company. And normally they're kind of touching one frontier, which is hugely game-changing. In the particular case of Solidblock that I'm going to be speaking with today, we go on multiple levels. Like we're not just talking about how blockchain is being redefined, or even talking about how tokenization is being redefined, or even talking about how venture capital in some ways is being, but it's the entire world, how it's been re-looked at, and how the investors that are in that world are coming from a whole different place. So Yael, welcome to the show, first of all. Welcome to the Dojo. Welcome to the investment. I'm so thrilled to have you in our cohort and a company that we have most recently invested in.
Thank you so much, Brian. I can't even tell you how excited we are to start on this journey with you, and how, thrilled we are to be virtually in the Silicon Valley, kind of come back to my roots. I've had a company a few years back in the Valley, and, now we're almost there, from Israel, but hopefully very soon. And just very, very happy to talk to you today and kind of get in the mood for the upcoming accelerator session.
So what's amazing for me is really how Israel, and this is why whenever we get companies in from Israel, it's such a thrill for me, because you redefined venture capital. Before Israel, venture capital, there was just Silicon Valley. And Silicon Valley would just say, hey guys, you have to come here, and that's all there is. And if you come here, then we may invest in you. If you don't, we won't. And then because there were so many incredible unicorns coming out of Israel, then literally all of the top VCs came over to Israel. So you have them right there in your own backyard.
Well, I think they came for the weather, Brian, and they're telling
beaches.
You the beaches, yeah. But it's true. They call it the Silicon Wadi, right? Which is a valley in Arabic. So that's what they came for, and it's true. I got to Israel in when did I get 2005, and I quickly caught this startup bug. I didn't even know about Israel as a startup nation. To me, it was the Jewish nation. And when I got here, I learned that every taxi driver, everybody at the local grocery store has their own startup, right? You're getting, you're getting on a bus, and the person next to you is telling me about the app they're building. So you kind of catch the bug along the way. So I think almost every millennial at some point has thought about, why don't I create this app or that app or start this business? And then people go, to the army, which is mandatory here in Israel. And that's where they meet these buddies, kind of for life. And a lot of them later on become business partners, whether it's in high tech or it could be in real estate, could be anywhere. So it's also kind of creating these bonds that make the intricate partnerships, a network that people have later in life.
Yeah, and all of this provides the bedding of just phenomenal startups that have the ability to scale incredibly quickly. And as I said, you're touching so many different frontiers. So I wonder if we can to start it on its most basic level of what's wrong. And then we're going to layer into smart contracts and into blockchain and into venture capital, and really how you can democratize this in such a way that it can benefit the companies that are looking to raise. It can also benefit the retail consumers as well, and the institutional consumers. So over to you. Take us right back to the beginning of when you realized that there was a huge problem.
Well, in the beginning, Brian, God created heavens and earth. No, I'm kidding.
And then
Not
blockchain.
That
And then
right?
blockchain.
And the blockchain, right. And the second day.
He created a smart contract.
yeah, exactly. That was a smart contract between us and the Almighty. So the covenant, right? So in reality, the problem, Brian, changes with every day that goes by and you look in the news, right? So what's been dominating the news for the past week?
Trust.
Well, GameStop, Elon Musk, Bitcoin came back, and Dogecoin came back in the news. And what's the most significant thing that really happened, right? And Robinhood went down, right? So if I need to give a little bit of a background to the listeners, basically in a gist, people lost faith in public trading, I believe, right? So it's easy to show how there is one big group on Reddit that just decides arbitrarily, let's pump one specific stock, and then everybody gets in on it, makes money along the way as the stock goes up in value, and then at a certain point, the price will drop. Now, one thing that people don't realize that at that point, a lot of people will lose a lot of money, right? And now, in the beginning, it was kind of to show the hedge funds that they should stop, arbitrarily deciding which companies they should support, where they can earn a lot of money on the movement in the market. But on the other hand, what I think that people are realizing is that what you really, really need in the back end, right, under these digital assets, which are stocks, right? Stocks are securities, and in a way, they're assets, and they're traded digitally on all these platforms. Back end, you need something that is stable and that is easy to value, right? That is a real world asset. So what I'm getting at, Brian, is that we at Solidblock a few years back realized that certain assets in the market, there's a big gap between highly liquid assets like stocks and highly illiquid assets like real estate. There's a huge gap, and there's not anything in between, right? So if you want to invest in real estate because you need stable flow of income, or you need to put your money in something that's not going to be touched by these huge fluctuations in the market, right? You put it in real estate. But as an entrepreneur, or as a individual living their life, sometimes you can't afford having your money sitting somewhere for years, not being able to take it out, right? So, and we were experts in blockchain for a few years. My co-founder Yuval and I both realized, well, why don't we wrap real estate into this sort of a crypto wrapping even, and create a digital version that's backed by real estate. It's called security token or digital security, and that, thankfully, is actually can be compliantly traded on various exchanges that are specialized for trading of these digital assets. So then we have the best of both worlds. Then I, as an entrepreneur, can invest in these assets, have exposure to real estate assets. But yet, if I need money tomorrow to put in my startup, right now we're in the middle of the round, and we're putting in extra money. So I can take it out from there, like I can from Bitcoin, like I can from stocks, and put it in my startup. So that's why we started doing what we do today. And I think 2 years later, I'm seeing a huge need from almost any other asset class, even from equity. Once these stocks like GameStop and AMC were delisted from Robinhood, they were seeking other solutions. They went to other companies that are listing tokenized securities, right? So then I realized, wow, we really came at the right time.
And can we also talk a little bit about trust within the platform that blockchain inherently brings with it, and why smart contracts are so tremendously important? Because I love that you've started with GameStop. And I don't think it's that people necessarily lost trust in the system. I think people lost trust in the system an awful long time ago because everybody knew it was manipulated. I just believe that for the very first time, people want to do something about it. I remember even back in the days when they did Occupy Wall Street, and I thought to myself, like, I feel even guilty saying this, but what a waste of time. Like, all these people, they go to Wall Street, they get intense, they're miserable and they're cold, and it's in the middle of winter, and they're walking outside with signs and their fingers are freezing, and all of the people that they're complaining against are sitting up in beautiful lounges and lovely bars, and they're looking down at all of these poor people in the streets who are achieving nothing. And even my where I hail from in Ireland, I always remember, I think it was one of the Kennedys, I think it was Jackie Kennedy, who said, it never surprises me how tolerable the Irish people are to intolerable things happening to them. And it's true, like something awful will happen, and then a million people go in the streets, and then we make sure we get back home for 8 o'clock in the evening to watch the favorite TV show. right?
Oh
So
my
so
God.
I think if life is about timing, with you right now, people's tolerance level is done. Their ability to be able to abide by manipulation, gross, obsessive manipulation in the markets is over, and they're looking for a trustworthy solution.
Right, exactly. So let's talk about blockchain and why this really is the solution to the liquidity issue and liquidity problem. So first and foremost, let's talk about what blockchain is for a minute, in case some of the listeners
Mm-hmm.
are less versed in the subject. Blockchain and crypto are not the same thing. Blockchain is the platform upon which cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin or Ethereum are basically created, right? So blockchain is the ledger. It's an immutable database of sorts, which may or may not be public. Now, Bitcoin and Ethereum are based on public ledgers. So it's one characteristic of blockchain, which makes it blockchain, is the fact that once transactions are recorded there, they're recorded forever, and there is no way to change that. So why do
It's really a
regulators?
trackable record of
Right,
everything, right? Just
exactly.
for folks out there, like it's just like if you woke up in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning and you went to bed at 11 o'clock at night, it is a trackable record of every single thing that happened to you in that day that is verified by multiple third parties. So it
Right.
happened. It's not made up.
Exactly. Let's talk about the Jobs Act for a minute, which was the government act in 2012, which really allowed for trading of private securities. It was the purpose of the Jobs Act was to help SMEs, private, small medium enterprises to grow, right? To encourage them. So before then, we couldn't trade privately issued securities at all, except for the public market, the IPO. Now, from this act, from now on, we can issue private offerings and trade these securities. Now, at the same time, blockchain appeared in the market and actually served as a catalyst for the development of what we have now as a security token offerings, right? So we're now able to trade these securities safely with blockchain. And there are many new exchanges or ATSs, automated trading systems, that are getting licenses right now. We actually, Solidblock is proud to announce our partnerships. Every week or two, we partner with a new ATS that has license to trade security tokens, and we're really thrilled to see where the market is going to go.
Amazing. So now that we understand exactly how blockchain works and where it's going to be, what do you think is going to happen? You have this crescendo of the people going crazy with the system that's out there. It's almost like everybody has suddenly realized that they've been conned for the last 50 or 60 years. Like before, everybody knew, yeah, okay, it's unfair that we can't touch private shares. We're being screwed by the powerful in that they're able to do that. But now they're realizing that actually they never really had any impact on the public shares either, because there's a couple of extremely wealthy people who have got $1 billion here, $1 billion there, and they just drive the price wherever they want to, and which keeps people poor. So everybody's sick and tired and they want a different system. At the same time, we've got blockchain, which I think blockchain has matured from being a teenager into being a very young, smart adult, right? So finally, a lot of the things that people have talked about for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years are becoming a reality. The technology is catching up so that we can actually integrate this into systems where it physically wasn't possible to be able to do it before. And then on the other side of it, we've also got a movement of institutions that also want to be able to track their money. So in some ways, it's almost like a perfect storm that people want this to happen. So talk to me about how you see Solidblock fitting into this and where you see it all going in the future.
Thank you for that question, Brian. So our mission has always been to enable anybody in the world to invest in real estate at any time, to create this global NASDAQ for assets, right? We start with real estate, we will add other assets to the mix. So how do we do that really? How do we allow people to partake in this very, very basic asset class such as real estate? Everybody should have the right to own a piece of real estate, and yet so few people do, Brian. So how do we do that when there's regulation that prevents us from selling securities to retail investors, for example, right? Without a specialized license. So we created a long-term vision to enable anybody really to participate through partnerships with crowdfunding platforms, through partnerships with brokers, through partnerships with investor networks. So we kind of created this long-term vision that we're going to adhere to. Now, what this is going to do, and you asked me about how I see the future. In the future, I see people connecting with assets that they want to own, whether that's real estate or a company or commodity or anything like that, because we've seen in the news and in statistics that millennial causes that they truly identified with, it's the more, the world has become more local and more personal. And because of the media and how fast people get the news now, any wrong move or a tweet or a message, an image results in like a huge wave of either extra interest or complete lack of support, right? Depending on the move. So what we're going to see is that good causes are going to get supported and are going to get seen and noticed. So if there is a developer somewhere, a real estate developer that has a good track record and has been delivering results to investors, we're going to see them grow, right? If there is a company out there somewhere, that's experiencing difficulties getting funded, it will get noticed if it's doing the right things for the right people, delivering results. I think that it's going to be easier for good products to get noticed regardless of branding. I think maybe branding is going to be a little bit less relevant than it is right now, overhyping things. So, and I feel that with these moves, and also the fact that a lot of things are getting democratized right now, and people are learning to invest, people are learning about finance, people are understanding that pension funds are not going to do a good job investing on their behalf, and everybody kind of wants to take the money out and start putting it according to their own preferences. I think that people are going to have well-diversified portfolios, support the causes that they like and that they identify with. And the world is my personal belief and hope that the world is going to be a better place and people are going to be much better off, and hopefully will help people to come above the poverty line, right? And especially the unbanked individuals, right? So we have a plan with Solidblock to really touch on affordable housing and allow people to, even instead of a mortgage scheme, to start buying parts of the home where they're living or where they want to live, and that way, and use that asset to get further loans and other financial products. So and get over that hump, over the poverty line, and get into and get into the like what used to be called American Dream, which I think kind of a little bit shifted from then, but yeah, you get it, I think.
By the way, I love that final part of adding fractional ownership so folks can come in and own pieces of homes wherever they are in the world. Maybe I could have a room in Paris, and then I could take that room in Paris and I could swap it out for another place, which is over in Spain, or a place in Germany, or a place over in the US. And then I can build up my portfolio. I also think you've really hit on something with regard, I mean, and the GameStop really reinforces it, right? But you've hit on something in that a moment in time that we're in. If 5-10 years ago was the time of building really authentic, strong brand around why a brand should exist, I think we're moving into a time of you need to be able to show what you're actually doing for the planet and what you're doing for other people beyond having a shiny brand and making a difference. And that's something that the retail investors are going to want to get engaged in. And as GameStop have shown, their power is stronger than any one institution that's currently out there right now. And for the first time, that's being demonstrated.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. I really identify with this current movement, and I'm in a few WhatsApp groups where they declare we're going to do this now, we're going to do that, 15 minutes until we start the new one. I don't participate personally, but I'm watching like a spectator in a stadium, expecting what's going to happen. And I think that we're here at the right time. What are we going to do with it, Brian? That's the biggest thing. How are we going to use this moment and use it as a tailwind, right, for Solidblock, and to move forward and support the right causes and get behind and get this movement even, and make this movement even stronger. So that's something we're working on every day right now.
Yeah, and you've already had tremendous success. You've already had properties up there. And speak to me a little bit about where you're going to in the future. Like, how many more properties are you looking to take on? What is the complexity of bringing those properties on? Obviously, there's a lot of regulation that actually goes into every single one of them. And then maybe we can tie that into how that turns into your revenue graph going forward too.
Right. So we're right now in the middle of tokenizing several properties. We have 5 properties on the platform, and we intentionally diversified them. We have a hotel, a branded hotel. We have several multifamily. We have a single family fix and flip fund. We have a medical medical fund. So medical facilities fund. So we intentionally diversified the assets to give kind of, this opportunity for people to invest in different things. And the next step for us is to bring as many investors as possible to the platform. And now that we have the supply, is to bring in investors and have them try out the platform and invest and create their own portfolios and mix and match. At the same time, we actually have quite a few partners now that are interested in doing what we're doing on a very big scale, right? They are either developers that have dozens and hundreds of projects, and they want to basically place them all on the platform, tokenize, and then connect their investors with their assets, right? So we are facilitating that right now for quite a few partners, at the same time as developing our marketplace into the largest and the most significant real estate marketplace that the world will see. And we have a lot of things in the works to actually take the whole industry forward. And we're going to be doing that we're actually now thinking through, what will people want to do? What will institutions or any investors want to do once they have these digital assets, right? Obviously, there's more that you can do with them than just trade, right? As you have in the real world, let's say you have a bank, right? You used to store your money under a pillow. Now you all of a sudden have a nice place to put your money. So there's many more services that now can be offered, like loans, like investment in assets, investment, mortgages and things like that, right? So the same thing with us as well, and the same thing with digital assets. There are many things that are going to be done, such as collateralization of these assets to get loans, such as getting other products with these tokens. So many things. So stay tuned.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely great. And then, so if I'm looking, let me look at the different value propositions. So I'm the owner of the asset, because I'm also thinking, look, we're going to bring you in because I love your product. I love the development. I love the opportunity. I love the timing. Like, I love the timing more now after watching what's happened currently. But even 4 or 5 weeks ago, I adored the timing of the space that you're in, because I just think this is the time. The time is absolutely now. But so if I'm talking to somebody like my partner, who's a huge real estate holder of property, one of the biggest in California, and I'm talking to him about tokenizing the property, what do you see as the value proposition for him directly? So you're having a conversation with him right now and you're saying, okay, we want to take this property and we want to put it right here and we're going to tokenize the property. So this is why we're taking this property in particular, because it's better for these particular investors to come in for. And then also, this is why it's going to be a better outcome for you.
Since we're a marketplace, we're bringing value to both sides, right? So to the asset owners, we're providing a space where they can sell or provide their products to a much more diversified audience. They'll be able to also give their investors additional benefit of liquidity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're just putting themselves on a much higher level in general with this project. I think that in 5 years, all the assets are going to be tokenized. So if you're not, if you're not on trend, you're going to stay behind. So basically, business owners or property owners are tokenizing to get access to additional capital, to diversify their capital base, and to provide their investors with additional benefits. Not to even mention, easier administration, much cheaper, overhead for fundraising and stuff like that. So
yeah, so it's a no-brainer. So right now their options are you either go to the bank and leverage yourself in the same way that you have done for all your future properties that you do, or you sell your property and then you use the money from selling the property to come in. What you're saying is no, make your property liquid in the first place. Like, why are you borrowing money for other people for something that you already own? Bring that liquidity in, use that liquidity to leverage yourself up, and then make this as easy as cash to trade with on a daily basis. And that's even leaving out the tax advantages that you have with that as well.
Exactly.
So,
and also, you do real estate well. So do more of what you do well, right? So you can, instead of doing one project at a time, you can do 2, 3 projects. You deliver value to your investors. They'll put faith in you. They'll invest more in your projects, and you'll make them even more money. So that way you can kind of create a conveyor of projects with a tokenization platform.
Yeah, there's no question this is going to be where everything is going to go. Has this been a difficult journey to get here from the beginning? Because you're building something incredibly complex and where you had to go through a ton of regulation. And, the Jobs Act came out in 2012, but it's been developing since then. As I said, if I mentioned earlier on that blockchain is maybe now a young adult and not a teenager anymore, so is equity crowdfunding. It's so recent, only 8 years ago or 9 years ago when it actually came into being. And over that time, we've learned so much about everything that's happened. Now, interestingly enough, since equity crowdfunding has come out, we've seen very, very few problems with it. It was expected there would be a lot of problems with what was called uneducated investors coming into the market. And the opposite has happened. There's actually been some really good deals come out to the market, better and better projects. And a lot of the investors have actually been extremely educated. So talk to me a little bit about kind of how you see that going forward, but also what was it like going through that period and being part of that building process when it was so young?
Actually, Brian, that's a super interesting question. And I'll start even earlier and with the history of the whole digital security or security token offerings. And that all starts with blockchain, right? Bitcoin, blockchain, Bitcoin 2010. A few years later, 2013, companies realized that blockchain is actually useful. So started thinking about what can we use it for? Banks started thinking, how can we leverage blockchain to send money across different countries, right? So everybody started looking into this technology. And then because of the crypto industry, some companies realized, wow, well, we can maybe raise money by offering these securities, kind of doing regulatory arbitrage. And that's where this ICO industry came about, initial coin offerings, a lot of unregistered securities that were not even based on any real world assets. They were based on a promise of a future market. And because of the lack of regulation, a lot of companies were able to raise money, and a lot of companies were, they closed afterwards, either for the lack of ability to manage or just the lack of desire to do anything with it because there was no accountability. So from there, in 2017, 2018, a lot of, both regulation caught up and said, okay, this is not legal. You should call this a security. And here are all the rules. And specifically the US SEC, Security and Exchange Commission, was really particular about, and is really particular about the rules of fundraising, which I think is good. So that happened. And the parallel, both my co-founder and I independently, we thought, well, what's the next stage for this market? Where's it going to go? On the one hand, a lot of communities are getting super engaged and pumped up. Like, we're ready. We want to, like you said, Brian, this revolution has started a long time ago, maybe 3-4 years ago. And now it has culminated in GameStop and so on. But so about 3-4 years ago, people started realizing, well, this could be done for real world assets, right? We could tokenize these real world assets like real estate and issue securities. That's what they are. Let's call them by their names. They're securities. They're in digital form. So that's how Solidblock was born, essentially. Now, we got lucky in a way, because just as Yuval, my co-founder, in 2018, he was one of the people that came to realization that this is going to be the next big thing. So he opened Solidblock, and he started advertising security token offerings for real estate. And a little while later, this company, Elevated Returns, reached out to him, and they managed the St. Regis Aspen ski resort, and they wanted to create a digital security offering for the ski resort, right, to do a recap deal. Now, why did they even want to do it? How did they arrive to that realization? So it was basically a recapitalization. So I think one or maybe a few partners wanted out. They wanted liquidity, right? Like a lot of partners do. It's hotels have a really long life, and they sometimes partners want out and invest in something else. So they thought, okay, maybe we'll go public. And then they started going through the process of going public, and it was just excruciating. It was expensive, and it took a long time. So they decided to go a different route. So they heard about the Jobs Act and how you can now actually issue private securities and make them tradable. And so they started looking at companies that do that. They found Solidblock. And, long story short, Solidblock was the tech partner on the deal. And we did our part with respect to technology. And that was challenging, but that was, super interesting. And that was a part of our journey. So what happened after that is that we got a lot of, tremendous amount of interest from additional assets. But at the same time, we decided that we're actually going to create a full offering, not only the tech side, but actually all of it: compliance, regulation, structuring. So we needed to now go and do what Elevated Returns essentially did with the first deal. So that part was super, super challenging, and it's still very challenging. So we had to become global experts on regulation and compliance when it comes to digital assets. So in 2019, I went to maybe 30 conferences talking about this stuff. And I should say I did get a fair share of travel before COVID. So it was kind of maybe even nice to be home for a while. but yeah, so we became kind of this global expert on all of these issues. And it put us in a great position to actually innovate in the industry. Like, you have to understand every single thing about the process in order to say, well, we can do it better. We can do it this way. So that was the most challenging part, is to kind of combine all these pieces of puzzle in one offering, which is insane. And that's why actually our blockchain-based platform, it looks so easy and so simple on the front end, and on the back end, all of these things are happening, right? So that's what's happening right now. Now, the next challenge that we have, and that we will, the place where we want to be, is really the place where we get users and investors to make informed decision about buying assets and selling assets and trading, right? Buying, holding, trading, using, whatever. And that will come from a place of data. So our next step is really integrating all kinds of data sources and algorithms to give tools to individuals to buy, sell, and trade. So that's the next step for us. And then continuing on to building up a full financial service platform.
I think it's just amazing. And for all investors listening, you got to think to yourself, like, try and imagine this platform in 4 or 5 years' time with thousands, if not tens of thousands of tokenizable assets. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, how do we know that these assets are going to go there? You have to think to yourself, is there a single owner of a relatively hard to liquidize asset in the world that would not like to have immediate liquidity built into their asset? Like, this is coming. This is here. Actually, it's already been here. We're catching up on it right now. But this is going to become mainstream extremely quick. What I loved about Solidblock was that you got ahead of the curve so fast. You did all of these really tough things. You created this huge moat to the market, because these regulations these regulations and the compliance are an absolute nightmare. There is no shortcut. There is no, well, if we just do it quickly, are we higher? No. You have to go go down this process. Like they want to see you go down this process, and you've done all the hard work. You brought on like not some small, I mean, the St. Regis, for goodness sake, is a beast of a first customer, not because they're big. If they were big, I'd be like, yeah, that's okay. It's good. Like you went for somebody big, but they're big and traditional. Like you just like to go for someone that is where I would say the average owner age, and I'm guessing, is like 89, and you can get them to tokenize their assets, and you do it in a business that is traditional as the St. Regis. It says to me that the gates are opening for you, and I could not be happier. So tell me as we finish up. Hopefully, any investors that had any doubts at the beginning, this has become extremely obvious for you as it did for me. You see where this company is going. You see where the market's going. I don't think you need to be that tremendously smart to work it out, and at least go in there and have a demo. Talk to us if you can about what raise you're doing right now and what that raise is gonna bring you to, and then finish up if you can just by giving just email and contact details for all of the investors that are listening.
Absolutely. So right now we're at the Seed Plus round. Can I talk about valuation and all the other stuff?
If you like. Yeah, definitely the raise, and we can talk about the valuation maybe when folks get into conversations with you. But how much money are you going to be raising?
Yeah, no, just from the securities standpoint. That's why I was asking. Okay. Yeah. So, okay, great. So Solidblock is right now finishing up our Seed Plus round. We're raising 6 million. No, sorry. God. Okay. Tired. All right. Solidblock right now is in the middle of a Seed Plus round. We're raising a total of $2.8 million. We already secured 850, so around 2 million left right now. Yeah.
Perfect. And that's going to do what? How many more properties are we going to get up on the platform? How many people are you going to hire? How much money is going to come in? All of the fun stuff.
All of the fun stuff. So we're planning to make that last for about a year, maybe a year and a half, with a burn rate of $150,000.
Excellent.
And now about 600 is going to further R&D, and we have some plans to incorporate the data, to add these financial services, as I mentioned, and also to automate the platform. We're gonna get up to 12 properties tokenized a year on Solidblock platform, but then an additional 24 through these third parties, as I mentioned, that will be using Solidblock as like kind of their own playground, right? In their own private version of Solidblock. So, and how are we making money? You might add. So we have a transaction fee for all the money that comes in and out, through our service, through our platform. We have some SaaS maintenance fees, I would say, every month, depending on the level of the service. And, we have some onboarding fees as well when new clients come in. And the most interesting part will be once our assets will start trading in about 6 months to a year, where we're also going to take basically a cut from different transactions that go through the secondary market.
Hoo-ha.
So that's actually the most exciting part for me, is to see where all of this is going to go, and how this is going to develop. So how many people are we going to hire? We have a wish list of 3 core team members to add, and we're going to expand our R&D team as well to include a specialist in AI and algorithms. So all in all, we have amazing plans for 2021, 2022, and I can't wait.
Wonderful. And how can everybody contact you?
Yael at solidblock.co, or you can just Google Yael Tamar. Yep. And you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter at Yael Tamar. So I'm very approachable. Be happy to schedule a phone call and talk about what we do.
Wonderful, which is YAEL, and you can always contact me, Brian at Expert Dojo, if you'd like to have the introduction made as well. Look, you're a beast. You're building an awesome platform. Couldn't be happier that we've invested into you. And as you know, I'm happy to jump on any other investors and tell them why we love you guys so much. So peace out. It's a wrap.
You're
going
gonna
to
get a
build
lot of
unicorn.
phone calls this week, Brian. You don't know what you
got
set
me.
yourself up against.
I'm your AI. You've got an Irish AI, okay? You just ping, and I'm going to be there for you.
As
no,
long
you're
as
great.
it's not the IRA, I'm okay with I'm okay with it.